I just welcome you, sir.
Thank you so much. Thanks for the session. I hope I am audible.
Yes, sir, you are audible, sir. You
Okay.
are also visible, sir.
Yeah. Can I share my screen?
Yes, sir. Sir, shall I proceed with my welcome address, sir?
Yeah, please.
So, once again, participants, I welcome you all for day 4, session number 11, on the title EV charging and control. Uh, on this session, it gives me an immense pleasure in welcoming the speaker, Dr. Febin Daya. He received his BE from Manonmaniam Sundara University, ME and PhD from Mana University. Presently, he is serving as professor in electrical vehicles incubation, testing, and research center at VIT Chennai campus. He has 16 years of teaching and research experience. He has served in various capacities such as assistant director, industrial international relations, and assistant director, sustainability initiatives at VIT Chennai. He has published around 80 papers in international journals and conferences. He has 2 Indian patents to its credits. He is actively involved in many professional bodies at the level of the editor and associate editor and editorial board member in India and also in abroad. He was invited as honorary program committee, technical committee, steering committee member, and chair for more than 15 international conferences in India and also in abroad. He has completed 2 research projects funded by DST and 3 industrial consultancy projects. He has guided more than 60 undergraduate and postgraduate projects and 2 PhD scholars. His current research interest includes electric drives and control, intelligent systems, and electrical vehicles. Once again, his presence among us is a blessed moment. On behalf of Mechanical Department and Sri Ishwar College of Engineering, we welcome you, sir, for the program. Now the session is yours, sir.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for the nice introduction. So before starting this session, I'd like to thank the organizers of this FTP, especially the HOD of Mechanical Department, Dr. Suresh, for inviting me here to this session. Um, I hope I can switch off my camera to have better um, bandwidth. I
Yes,
hope it
sir.
is not an issue, right?
Yes, sir, no issues, sir.
Okay. All right. Thank you so much. All right. I hope my screen is visible and my sound is clear.
Yes, sir, you're visible and voice is clear, sir.
Yeah. Of course, the session of the day, the present time is EV charging and control. So, of course, you're learning plenty of topics. It's really quite interesting, and I really appreciate the organizers for arranging the topics in a very unique and very beautiful fashion. So, I really appreciate the organizers for it. So in this session, of course, we are going to learn about some of the basics of EV charging and different ways of controlling it. So I'll try to keep it as simple as possible so that you can understand the concepts behind this EV charging. Um, to start with, when I say EV charger, so it's similar to in any electronic device. For example, I have a phone with me and I have a charger to be connected. Whenever the battery is empty, immediately I'll put my phone in charge. It will take some time, and after some time, I say the battery will indicate it is full. Then, of course, I'm going to switch off the charger. It is almost similar to any chargeable device or any electronic, right? So the purpose is, of course, to keep the battery full, right? But the difference comes in the amount of power or the amount of current it is going to handle, right? So here, when I say electric vehicle, it is going to be a larger battery, so it is going to be a larger current. So in a definition sense, I can say that a EV charger, it just pulls in electric current from the grid. It is wired to, and it is going to deliver it to the vehicle or to the battery. So when I say grid, of course, I'm going to use the Indian grid system. And from Indian perspective, I say if I have a single phase supply, I say it is going to be a 230-volt supply. And as you know, if I'm going to tap power from a single phase 230-volt supply, the maximum current which I can draw is 15. Right, 15 amperes. So the same circuit which you see in your homes, wherein you connect high power components like the geyser or your AC and all, you'll be connecting, right, a 15 ampere socket. So that is the maximum current which I can draw from a single phase 230 voltage AC supply. So if you multiply this value to 230 into 15 approximately, even of course it is AC power, but still if you approximately multiply, so around I can have a charger of 3.3 kilowatt. Right, so if I'm using single phase AC supply, I can have a charger with a rating of 3.3 kilowatt. On the other hand, if I go for three phase supply, right, so Indian grids supplies voltage at 415 line to line, and the maximum current which I can draw is 125 ampere. Right, so here also I can say that if I'm using three phase supply, I can go for a charger which is about 50 kilowatts. So single phase maximum 3.3 kilowatts. So for example, if you're using a single phase supply in your house, and if you're buying a car or a two-wheeler, an electric two-wheeler, so the maximum rating of your battery, of your charger, should be 3.3 kilowatt. Three phase, I can go for higher power. If I want something higher than this, like I want a charger which is to be I mean a 60 kilowatt charger or a 100 kilowatt charger, so of course I need to have I need to bring in extra wires from the grid at a higher voltage, and sometimes I have to bring in a transformer into my premises. This normally happens for a bigger battery charging station. So the power lines directly come from the substation to the station, wherein I'll be installing a transformer. The transformer I can tap power at my requirement. So up to 50 kilowatt, I can conveniently use 415 volts three-phase AC supply. So now coming to the charger architecture. So what is this charger? What is available inside it? So I hope you are familiar with this. So the input is going to be AC. So of course there is no doubt about it. As I have told you, I'm going to tap power from the grid. So it is going to be an AC supply. So I'm going to tap in AC current, right? And the output is going to be DC, right? Sorry. Yeah, so the output is going to be DC, right? So charger is basically a device, so which is going to convert the AC supply into DC, and we call this AC to DC conversion as rectification, or a device which does this work. We call it as rectifier, right? So basically, when I say a simple charger, so it is going to act as a rectifier. It converts AC and it is going to produce DC, and the DC is to be supplied to my battery, right? And along with that, okay, see, these things are now very important. So the first one is the protection. Okay, protection, of course, it is going to be available on both sides, on the grid side or on the input side, and also on the battery side. So both the sides are on the output side. Both the sides I'll be having protection. Of course, it is very important. You know about, you have already learned about lithium-ion battery. So I have to handle it carefully. So the amount of current and voltage I'm going to put in, it should be as per the requirement, right? One more important thing, of course, I need sometimes metering. So what is the need for metering? See, for example, if I'm using a supply, or if I'm using the power from a charging station, for example, so I have to pay for the amount of power I am going to take out from the charging station, or how much amount of power I'm going to use to charge my battery. So of course I need some metering system. So I say I used 5 kilowatt. I'll say for 5 kilowatt, how much is the amount I have to pay? So I need to know it, and I have to pay it accordingly. Now this is very important. So both the sides, of course, I have the required protection, and of course metering is very essential on the input side. I hope you have learned about already. You have learned about the different types of charging. Okay, the battery charging technique. I just want to give some insight on this. The most common type of charging a lithium-ion battery is what you call it as constant voltage and constant current charging, right? Constant voltage and constant current charging. There is of course another type also. We call it as pulse and bulb charging, but this is the most familiar and most common one, the constant voltage and constant current charging. So so this waveform shows how the charging is going to happen in a battery. So for example, if I have a lithium-ion battery, and I say the terminal voltage, sorry, it's okay. Okay, sorry for the inconvenience. Okay, I'll talk. So I say, for example, the terminal voltage of the battery is, for example, 3.7 volt, right? The nominal voltage of the battery is 3.7 volt, right? So when the battery discharges, okay, the voltage can come from 3.7 to almost, for example, up to 3.1 volt. Okay, and when I charge the battery current, the battery voltage can move up to 4.3 volt approximately. So 3.7 is the middle value. Okay, 3.7 is the nominal value. So when I discharge the battery, it can go up to 3.1. When I say when the voltage went to 3.1, it is completely discharged. And when I put the charger, once again the voltage goes high, and when it reaches, for example, 3.7 to when it reaches 4.3 or 4.2 volts, I can say that the battery is fully charged, right? So this process, okay, this process of charging, okay, is done by this technique using called constant voltage and constant current charging. Okay, what I'll do is initially, so I'm going to supply constant current. Okay, I'm going to supply constant current to my battery. Okay, so already the battery is discharged. So you assume that this point is now 3.1. Okay, the one which I am showing here, this point is now 3.1. So from 3.1, so the battery slowly starts increasing, or gradually I'm going to increase this value, and the voltage will be keeping on increasing. And at a point of time, the voltage reaches the maximum point, as I have told you, for example, 4.3 volt. Right. So up to this point, from 3.1 to the maximum value, 4.3 voltage, I'm going to supply constant current. Right. So this is called as constant current period. So this will happen for a particular amount of time. Okay. So once the battery reaches 4.3 volt, the maximum voltage, it doesn't mean that the battery is fully charged. Right. If you check the state of charge of the battery, you can still find that it is, for example, 50% or 60%. Right. So after this point, okay, after it reaches the maximum point, I will clamp the voltage to this particular value, 4.3 volts. Example, okay, 4.3 volts. Okay, then, okay, the voltage will be clamped. So then gradually, right, so gradually the current starts reducing. Right, so the current starts reducing, and when the current almost becomes zero, right, when the current almost becomes zero, I say that the battery is fully charged. right? So for a particular period of time, until the voltage reaches the maximum value, I'm going to supply constant current. And once the maximum value is reached, then I'll switch to constant voltage, wherein I'm going to provide constant voltage to the battery, whereas the current will be gradually reducing. So now this is the pattern of charging a battery, a lithium-ion battery. Okay, and the amount of current. Okay, how much amount of current I am going to supply, whether it is 10 ampere or 20 ampere or 50 ampere. So that depends upon the charging rate of the battery. So we'll discuss about this charging rate a bit later. But now please understand that it depends upon the charging rate. At what rate I'm going to charge the battery. So I hope you're convenient with it. So first, initially I'm going to supply constant current. The battery will reaches the maximum value. Once it reaches the maximum value, so I'm going to clamp the voltage to the maximum value, and gradually the current reduces. When the current reduces to 0, I say the battery is fully charged. Now, some of the interfaces, okay, the same charger, the same architecture, some extra interfaces are required. So when I say I'm going to design or I'm going to make a charger, okay, so the first interface is with the energy operator. I need to communicate with the energy operator. So because he is the one who is going to supply power to me. Okay, the DISCOM or the electricity board, they are the people who are going to supply power to me. So I have to tell them, yes, I have a vehicle now. I'm going to tap power from you. Okay, and I have to tell them at what rate I'm going to do it. Okay, at what charging rate I'm going to do it. Okay, and I have to tell them what is the capacity of the battery which I'm going to charge it. Okay, so because accordingly to that, they are going to provide me the billing also. Okay, so it has to communicate. Sometimes you say I want to charge the battery at a very faster rate. Okay, I want to perform fast charging. Okay, but the energy operator can say, no, you can't do it now. I am operating at peak load. Right, you can tap power at such a high current or such a huge amount. I'm operating at a peak load, so you can maximum tap at this value. It's possible. Okay, so all this communication need to be done with the energy operator, right? So so it needs a proper communication. And the second one, of course, the communication with the vehicle, right? So or the battery management system, right? So battery management system, of course, it can be a wired communication or it can be wireless communication, but preferably it is nowadays wired communication through the connector itself, through the connector through which the power is being sent in. The same connector is being used for communication purpose also, right? So that is possible. So this communication is very essential. Okay, the communication between vehicle to the charger or the BMS to the charger, because so I'll be bringing in different kind of vehicles to the charging station, or I'll be having different vehicles, and my charging station should be capable of supplying power as per my requirement. So the BMS will tell me this much current you have to supply. Okay, for this much amount of time you have to supply. Okay, and this is the maximum value of my voltage. Once I reach this value, immediately supply me constant voltage, and then you can gradually reduce the current value, right? So this is the rating of my batteries. These are my cutoff values. These are my peak values. Okay, these details has to be communicated with the charger. Okay, the BMS has to communicate this details with the charger. Only then the charger can supply the power as per my requirement, right? And so once I do this, so once I finish the charging, so I need to pay, right? I need to pay for the amount of power I have consumed. So of course I can integrate with a billing gateway, right? Example, I will integrate my charger with Paytm, or I integrate with it with Google Pay, anything, any billing gateway. So immediately it is going to send me this much is the amount of this is the amount for which for this is the amount of amount you have to pay for the amount of energy you have consumed. So accordingly, I'm going to pay it. So these are the charger interfaces which we normally have in a vehicle. Basic idea of a charger, a basic architecture of a charger. So I'll be having a rectifier, meterings, I'll be having protections, and of course I have interfaces with energy operator, BMS, and of course the billing gateway. Okay, now one thing is very important. So when I say AC to DC conversion, or when I say rectifier, now from the pattern of the current and voltage which I need to supply to the vehicle, I can understand that I need variable voltage, I need variable current supply. Okay, so the rectifier should be capable of providing me variable voltage and variable current at my output. So of course I need a controller inside it, right? I need a controller inside it. I need a processor inside it. It should be capable of adjusting the values of voltage and current. So that should be possible in a converter. So now coming to the classifications, okay, very broadly. Okay, so there's no specific classification like this, okay, based on what is available. So it has been coined like this. Very broadly, it can be classified into 4 types. Okay, so one is called as standalone chargers. Okay, the very basic one is called as standalone chargers. Now, this is something like a portable charger. You carry a charger for your laptop, right? So whenever you go, you carry it with you. So whenever you need it, you tap it to the AC power, you take the DC, and you'll be charged the laptop which is available with you. This is something similar to it. So for example, for 2-wheelers, 3-wheelers, even sometimes for small 4-wheelers, standalone batteries are available, portable batteries. So it will be available in the vehicle, or the OEM, the manufacturer of the vehicle, say they themselves, they'll be supplying this, right? So you can have it in your car, or can have it in your 2-wheeler. So whenever you want, you can take it out, tap a AC supply, and of course you can connect it to your battery, right? So normally we'll be doing this for fixed batteries, right? For my car or for my 2-wheeler, this is the charger. Okay, so that is the thing. So second one is what we call it as slow charging stations, right? So slow charging stations, once again, it is essential for owner's vehicle, my own vehicle. Okay, but the difference here is I can have it on my apartment. Okay, I have a charger installed on my apartment, so there is a need for a billing also, right? So whenever I consume power, or say after 1 month, I say how much power I have consumed from my charger, I have to pay accordingly. Okay, so when I say slow charging station, okay, so what normally I do is I'll put my vehicle on charge, okay, for the whole night. For example, 5 hours, 6 hours, 7 hours. Okay, for the whole night I'll be charging it. Once the charge, once the capacity and the battery is full, or the SOC is 100%, immediately automatically the charger will be disconnecting it from the supply. Okay, slow charging stations. The third classification is what you call it as fast charging stations. Okay, fast charging stations, once again, it can be done with AC and DC. We'll be discussing about this AC and DC charger in the next slide. Okay, but before that, so what we understand from this fast charging station is that so these chargers are capable of supplying power at a very higher rate, right? I can pump in power fastly, very quickly into my battery, right? So it will take very less time to charge. For example, in 1 hour, I have to charge my battery. In 45 minutes, I have to charge the battery. So this is possible using fast chargers. Normally, they are of higher power ratings, right? So higher power ratings, we normally go for fast chargers. Now, this is suitable for, once again, battery charging stations. Okay, it can be available in parking lots, it can be available in malls, it can be available in shopping complexes. Okay, so you just take your vehicle, you put it for charge. You need it to be charged in 15 minutes, 20 minutes, or 1 hour. So after 1 hour, you have to take it, and you have to travel for a longer distance. For example, 300 kilometers I need to travel. So for these kind of applications, I'll be going for fast charging. Okay, and the last one is what you call it as bulk charging station. So now this is a new concept which is coming in. Okay, of course, some works are already being done, wherein I'll be removing my battery from the vehicle. I'll be putting these batteries in a rack, okay, and I'll be charging it. Okay, so once I give this battery to the operator who is available in the swapping station, he is going to give me a newer battery, okay, which is fully charged. Okay, so I'll be fixing this battery in my vehicle, and I'll be moving on. So it will take less time. For example, 10 times or 10 minutes or 5 minutes. I'll be just take my vehicle. The battery need to be removed and a new battery need to be installed on my vehicle. And then the older battery or the discharged battery will be kept in racks, right? Racks, and it is going to be charged in bulk, right? So that is what you call it as bulk charging station. And of course, it is being installed in plenty of places. But one thing which I need to mention is in the battery swapping stations are very popular nowadays in Bangalore. Okay, Bangalore city is really promoting this bulk charging stations or this battery swapping techniques. So there are few companies like Sun Mobility, like a company called Swinic. They're all working on this battery swapping. Okay, even there is a company, there's a new startup like which takes a normal auto, it will convert it into e-auto, and then they'll be providing battery swapping for the e-auto, only for e-auto. So these techniques are available. So as of now, there are more than 200 battery swapping stations available in Bangalore. Even Ola is having some plans for establishing their own battery swapping stations. Now we call this as bulk charging stations, right? So now these are all some classifications based on their types. But what you have to understand here is, of course, this one. Okay, the first one is private charger. Okay, it's my own charger. Okay, the all other things. Okay, the slow charging station, the fast charging station, and the bulk charging station, they come under the classification called public charging. Okay, they're all public chargers. All right. So when I told about fast charging stations, there are two possibilities. I told you, one is called AC charging and the other one is DC charging. So this is another classification of your EV charger. Okay, so one more classification, one more type. Okay, you can take this type. So one more type of this EV charger is called as AC charging. The other one is called as DC charging. Okay, one is called as AC charging. The other one is called DC charging. So when I say AC charging, okay, I hope you can very well understood the concept of this AC charging from this figure. See, I have a onboard charger available on my vehicle. Okay, this can be an onboard charger which has been installed in my vehicle itself, or I can say that it can be the portable charger which I was talking about, right? So it can be the portable charger also. So what I do here is, so I have the portable charger available with me. Simply I'll connect the wire to the AC supply. Okay, so the rectification is happening here. See, the rectification is going to happen here on the vehicle or on the portable charger. Okay, simply I'll be taking the input or taking the card and I'll be connecting it to an AC supply, right? So this onboard charger will take care of converting this into DC, communicating with the BMS, and finally supplying power to the battery, right? So normally AC chargers are slow chargers, right? So very limited in power, so they'll take more time to charge, right? On the other hand, okay, so the other technique is what you call it as DC charging. So wherein, I'll take power from the grid, and I will be having DC supply ready with me. The charging station will be having DC supply ready with me. Okay, and I'm going to directly supply DC power to the battery. So this is what you call it as DC charging, right? So of course this needs infrastructure. I need to install a charging station. I need a larger power rating. Okay, but the advantage here is I can go for faster charging. Okay, because they are all normally of higher power rating. Okay, DC chargers are normally high power rating, so easily I can do faster charging. Okay, and one more possibility here is, one more scope here is, there's a possibility of integrating this DC charging station with renewable sources. For example, I say I have a charging station wherein the roof is completely solarized, or it is completely fitted with solar. So I tap power from the solar, and I'm going to convert. I'm going to use it as the input supply here, and then I'll be converting it into DC, and then I'll be supplying it to my battery. This is all possible in case of DC charging. So I hope you understand the difference between AC charger and DC charger. So basically, when I say AC charger, the charger will be available on the vehicle, or I'll be having a portable charger. right? So the conversion happens on the vehicle, and it will be communicating with the battery, and it is going to supply power. On the other hand, when I say DC charger, DC power is being directly supplied from the charging station to the battery. So AC charging is slow charger, DC charger, but fast charging is possible. Coming to the architecture, as I have already explained you. So when I say AC charger, I told you that the rectifier is available on the vehicle. Now you take this as the vehicle. Okay, this complete part as your vehicle, right? So I have a difficulty in drawing lines today. I don't know why. One second. All right. So this part, okay, this complete part is what is your vehicle. So the AC charger is going to be available inside your vehicle. Now, if you carefully look into it, okay, so the input is going to be AC. Okay, it can be a single phase or three-phase AC. Here I'll be having, it's going to be fixed AC. Okay, it's going to be 230-volt AC, or it is going to be a 415-volt AC supply. Okay, of course I'll be having some safety interlocks, or I say I have some protection circuits here, some MCBs can be available here, and then I'll be directly connecting it to my charger. Okay, the charger, inside the charger or inside the vehicle, I'll be having a rectifier which is going to convert the AC into DC. Okay, now this DC power, once again, it is to be connected to a DC-DC converter. Okay, so wherein I can have the scope of adjusting the voltage and current. So you see here, the output is going to be variable DC. Okay, this can be a fixed DC output. So here I'm going to provide variable DC output, right? And this output through protection circuit, okay, variable DC output through protection circuit, it is to be connected to the battery. So wherein I'm going to perform constant current and constant voltage charging, right? So the battery, it has the BMS installed in it. So that is going to communicate with the protection circuit and with the power control unit. So why it need to communicate with the power control unit? So the BMS has to tell, so what is the value of voltage? So what is the amount of current required? Okay, accordingly, it is going to control and it is going to produce the output here. Okay, and of course, the BMS also communicates with the protection circuit whenever it crosses the critical values. Okay, whenever the critical value is crossed, immediately it say that yes, you can stop the charging operation. Okay, but so this is about your AC charger. So normally level 1 and level 2 chargers are AC charger. We'll be discussing about this level 1 and level 2 later. After 2-3 slides, we'll be doing this. But there is a possibility of metering here. Okay, but this is not mandatory as far as AC chargers are concerned. So if you are using it as a public charger, you have to use, or you should have, you should be having the need of this metering and billing requirement. Example, so nowadays, one of the most common vehicle which is getting popular is this Nexon EV, so which was manufactured by this by Tata, right? So Nexon EV, they provide a charger along with the vehicle. Okay, the cost will be included in the cost of the vehicle. Okay, now this is a 3.3 kilowatt charger. So see, this is the supply AC socket, the 3-pin socket where you have to plug in it to the AC supply. Even the 15 amp socket, which is available in my house, right? And this has to be connected to the battery, right, or to the vehicle. Okay, now this is a portable charger. Okay, this complete part, you can take this as this complete part. This is a portable charger, this complete part, right? And this part, okay, this part. So if you say the OEM manufacturer, they will be installing a small kind of a switchboard, a MCB in your house, right? So you just plug in this socket here, and there will be a small switch here. Once you switch on the supply, so you can tap in this AC power, and the charger will send power to your battery. Now this is a classical example of your AC charger. On the other hand, when I say DC charger, okay, so when I talk about DC charger, as I have told you already, DC charger, so the conversion happens outside the vehicle. Okay, so in the charging station, the conversion is going to happen. So it is going to take three-phase AC supply. Normally, it will be three-phase supply, right? And it will be converting this AC into DC, and this is capable of supplying me variable DC voltage. Okay, so variable voltage, variable current, DC supply. Okay, now this complete part is going to be available in your vehicle. That is your battery, your protection circuit, and the BMS. This complete part is to be available in your vehicle. So the battery or the BMS communicates with the charging station. Normally the CAN protocol is used. So for vehicle communication, we are using CAN protocol, right? So the same communication protocol is being used, and it can communicate with the charging station, and of course it is going to tell the parameters. Okay, so what is the value of voltage, what is the value of current. So the BMS would tell how much is your current limit, how much is your voltage limit, what is the time for which I need to provide this voltage, what are my cutoff limits, right? So what is the error value, so when I have to switch up this supply. So all these things are being done by the communication which happens between the BMS and the charging station. So accordingly, the charging station is now going to supply power to your battery through the protection circuits, right? So once again, the same technique of constant voltage and constant current charging is to be applied here. And one interesting thing even you can find in Coimbatore today is the charging station, the DC charging stations installed by Tata Power, right? So they are capable of supplying power at the rate of 60 kilowatts. So they are all 60 kilowatt chargers, 50 to 60 kilowatt approximately. Okay, now you can see that they are going to give you DC supply. Okay, they are going to give you variable voltage, variable current DC supply, wherein it can be directly tapped into your vehicle, and you can charge your battery. So these are all fast chargers. When I say DC charger, I told you, right, they are all going to be fast chargers. So they are capable of charging at a very faster rate. Now, coming to one more difference, the concept of this fast charging versus slow charging, right? So now this is once again very important. Okay, so the fast charging and slow charging, as I have already told you, it depends upon the charge rate. So I hope some of the sessions might have covered this. So I'll just touch upon this and I'll move quickly. Okay, so it just depends upon the charge rate of the battery. At what rate I'm going to charge. Okay, so the rate at which the battery is charged and discharged. So it holds for both charging as well as discharging. Okay, and once again, the charge rate depends upon two important things. One is the capacity of the battery, and the other one is the capacity of the charger. Okay, now I have given you few examples here. Okay, let me take the first example. Okay, so here, for example, I have a battery which is of 10 kilowatt hour rating. Okay, the capacity of the battery, for example, I say it is 10 kilowatt hour. Okay, example, I say I have a battery which is operating with 50 volts nominal voltage. Okay, sorry, 200 volt nominal voltage, and I say the battery is of 50 ampere hour capacity. Okay, 50 ampere hour multiplied by the nominal voltage of 200, you say it is going to be almost 50 multiplied by 200, that is 10,000, or I say it is going to be 10 kilowatt. Okay, example, take an example like that. Okay, I say I have a 10 kilowatt hour battery, and I'm going to use a 10 kilowatt charger. Okay, so if I happen to do so, okay, so it implies that the 10 kilowatt hour battery implies that I can either charge or discharge the battery at the rate of 10 kilowatt in 1 hour. Okay, so if I connect a 10 kilowatt charger, okay, you just take it like this, the charger rating divided by the battery rating. Okay, 10 kilowatt divided by this 10 kilowatt. Charger rating divided by the battery rating, 10 by 10. So it is going to be as called as 1C charge rate. Okay, the charge rate is 1C, right? And immediately I can say that 10 kilowatt can be pumped in 1 hour, right? So I can say that the time taken to charge this battery is 1 hour. Okay, the same battery, okay, the same battery, I say the 10 kilowatt battery. So I'm going to use a 5 kilowatt charger, a charger which is capable of supplying power at 5 kilowatt. Okay, so I can, in this case, I can say that the charger rating divided by the battery rating, so it is 5 by 10. I can say that it is going to be 0.5 C. The charge rate is 0.5, or 0.5 C rate is the charging rate of the battery. Okay, so if I do so, okay, if I connect a 5 kilowatt charger, I can immediately say that it will take 2 hours for charging, right? It will take 2 hours for charging. And once again, the same is the case. If I connect a 2.5 kilowatt charger, 10 kilowatt battery with a 2.5 watt kilowatt, 2.5 kilowatt charger. So once again, I say it is 2.5 divided by 10, which is going to be still is a 0.25. Okay, to 0.25 is the charge rate of the battery, and still the charging time is going to be double. Okay, so it is going to be 4 hours. Okay, on the other hand, okay, take the last two examples. So I say I have a battery of 10 kilowatt, the same battery. I'm going to connect a charger of 20 kilowatt. Okay, so now I can say that the charge rate is 20 divided by 10. Okay, so it means that I can pump in power at the rate of 20 kilowatt, but the battery capacity is just 10 kilowatt per hour. Okay, 10 kilowatt hour battery. Okay, sorry, 10 kilowatt hour battery, right? So I can say that in this case, the charge rate is 2C. Okay, 20 by 10, I say it is 2C, or I can say that I can charge the battery in just 30 minutes. Still, if I go for a higher rating charger, okay, I say I have a charger which is 40 kilowatt, right? 40 kilowatt charger. I say I'm going to use the same battery. Immediately, I can say that it is 40 by 10. So it is going to be 4C charge rate, and immediately I can say that it is going to be still half of the time. Okay, because the charger rating is going to be very high. It is going to pump in power at a very faster rate, at a very higher rate of current. The charging rate is going to be very high. Okay, it is going to be 15 minutes. Right, so these two are the things, these two are the parameters which is going to decide whether it is fast charging or slow charging. Which one? The battery parameter, the battery capacity, as well as the charger rating. So the battery capacity and the charger rating decides whether I'm going to do fast charging or I'm going to do slow charging. The same is the case for discharging also. If I the same 10 kilowatt hour battery, if I discharge at the rate of 10 kilowatt, okay, so I say I'm discharging the battery at 1C. Okay, it will say, I can say that in 1 hour the battery will be completely drained. Okay, at the same time, if I discharge the battery at 5 kilowatt rate, I can say that the battery will run for 2 hours. So same is the case for charging and discharging. Okay, but now coming to our topic of this fast and slow charging. So if I do charging at 1C or higher, okay, so 1C, 1.5C, 2C, 2.5C, 3C, 4C, okay, this comes under fast charging. Okay, so charging at higher rate, okay, higher charging rate, I say it is called fast charging. Okay, whereas if I go for charging rate lesser than 0.5C. So these are the typical values. Okay, these are all typical values. So I say 0.1C, 0.2C, 0.3C, 0.4C. I say they're all slow chargers. All right. I hope you understood the difference between slow charging and fast charging. Now, regarding the Nexon EV, which I was talking about, the Nexon EV is having a battery capacity of 30.2. Okay, the battery capacity of your Nexon EV is 30.2 kilowatt hour, right? And the portable charger which comes along with the battery, with the charger, with the vehicle is 3.3 kilowatt charger, right? A 3.3 kilowatt charger is going to charge a battery of 30 kilowatt hour. It means that I can say that the charge rate of the battery is 3.3 divided by 30.2, which is approximately 0.11 C. The charge rate of the battery is 0.11 C. So you can say that when I connect a portable charger to my Nexon EV, I'm going to charge the battery at 0.1 C, or I can say that it is slow charging. Okay, and I can say that it takes almost 9 hours, okay, 8 to 9 hours, almost 9 hours to completely charge the battery or to reach 100% SOC. I hope you understood it. Okay, so it depends upon the battery capacity and the charger rating. For example, you see, I told you in Coimbatore you have installed a charger of 50 kilowatt rating. Okay, 50 kilowatt rating. If you go and if you take your Nexon EV charger, Nexon EV vehicle, it is going to be 30.2. I mean, your 50 kilowatt charger divided by 30.2 kilowatt hour battery, right? So it is going to be almost 1.66 C charge rate. So it is going to perform fast charging, right? On the other hand, it can charge in less than 1 hour, 45 minutes, you can charge it. On the other hand, you take a Tesla vehicle. Tesla vehicle, nowadays, they are available in 50 kilowatt hour and even 75 kilowatt hour rating. Okay, 75 kilowatt hour battery capacity. So you take a 75 kilowatt hour capacity battery and you use a 50 kilowatt hour charger. Now, once again, it is going to be 75 kilowatt hour divided by 50 kilowatt. The charger is going to be now lesser power, right? So naturally, now it comes out of this fast charging category now. So it is the battery capacity and the charger rating that is going to decide whether it is going to be fast charging or it is going to be slow charging. But in general, public chargers or DC chargers or fast chargers, whereas the portable chargers or AC chargers are slow chargers. I hope you understood the difference between the concept of this fast charging and the slow charging. Okay, and these are the typical values of the battery size and the amount of the battery rate, the charger ratings which will be required. For example, you take a two-wheeler, approximately the battery size is going to be 1 to 2 kilowatt hour. Okay, so simply if you connect a 1 kilowatt hour battery itself, I can say that I can do charging in 1 hour. Okay, if you take e-auto, normally it is going to be 3 to 6 kilowatt hour rating. I have to connect a charger accordingly. Small cars, as I have told you, the Nexon EV, those kind of cars, I can say 15 to 30 kilowatt hour battery. I have to connect a charger accordingly if I need to perform fast charging. Large cars, it can go up to 75 kilowatt hour. Example, your Tesla EV, and buses and trucks still higher power. So it can go up to 100 to 400 kilowatt hour battery. So now the battery rating along with the charger rating, that is going to decide how much time or whether I'm going to perform fast charging or slow charging. All right. Now coming to the charger architecture. Okay. So this is the general architecture of public charger. So it mainly consists of 4 important parts. Okay. First one, of course, it is going to be the electric vehicle. Second one is the EVSE. We call it as electric vehicle supply equipment. I have given it here, electric vehicle supply equipment. So this is the one which is going to convert the voltage into the required quantity. Either it can be DC voltage of required value. This is the one which is going to have all the power electronics inside it. And then, of course, I'll be having a central monitoring system, CMS. And of course, this can be connected with my mobile application also. Right, so this is how your public charger architecture is going to be. So this has been specified by the Ministry of Heavy Industries India. Okay, so you can even find this architecture in their website. But now the communication becomes very vital. Okay, when I have all these things, the communication between these components or these devices becomes very vital. Okay, this communication, of course, as I have told you, the BMS has to tell what is my requirement, right? Only then it can supply the required amount of power at the required rate to this battery, right? And this communication, the communication between the electric vehicle and EVSE, this is yet to be standardized. Different manufacturers, different OEMs, they are using different types of protocols. Of course, China is using their own type of protocol. Japan, they are using their own protocol. European unions, they have one. And of course, India has adopted some from China, some from Europe. And the communication between the CMS and the EVSE. CMS is now very important because that is going to interface with the grid and the user. Okay, the grid and the user interface, that happens to the CMS. So it will be having a database also, right? It'll have all the details. It can communicate with my mobile. So I'll tell you what is my requirement. The CMS then immediately sends commands to the EVSE. EVSE then receives data from the CMS, and accordingly it is going to supply power to my EV. right? And this communication, okay, the user interface and the database is available in my CMS. This communication between my center monitoring system and the EVSE, we use a protocol called OCCP. Sorry, OCPP. It is called as Open Charger Point Protocol. This is an universal protocol throughout the world. It has been adopted. This kind of communication is being used. So now this communication is really required to handle the grid parameters, the authorization of the users, the billing related things. So all these informations are required for this communication. And when I say the communication between my CMS and my mobile app, for example, the mobile which I will be having, so it can be any open protocol. Okay, any open protocol can be used. There is no limitations for the communication protocol which need to be used. So now this one, once again, this mobile communication, mobile to the CMS. See, what I can do is, before reaching the station, I can say I can find which is my nearest station. Okay, and if required, I say I'm going to reserve it. Okay, so I'm going to travel a longer distance. I have to see which charging station is having space, or which charging station is having the ability to charge my vehicle. Is it available for me now? So how much time it will take for me to go there, and what is the time taken for me to charge the vehicle of my type? So all these things can be easily accessed from my mobile through the CMS. Right, and then if I want to reserve a slot, see, I'm going to come by this time. I'm say 10:30. I'm going to come here. You have to book a slot for me. Immediately, I have to charge my vehicle. No, this is possible. Okay, this is possible using this communication. Now, this is the broad outline of your public charging architecture. Now, when you say public charging architecture, see, once again, different kind of vehicles are going to come in. Okay, one, I say I'm going to bring Nexon EV, I'm going to bring MG Hectares EV. So they have different protocols, they have different voltage levels, they have different power levels. Okay, so now this really creates a huge cumbersome concept when I want to integrate all of them together, and that is where the concept of standards come in. Okay, the charging standards come into the picture. Okay, so as far as charging is standards is concerned, charging standards is concerned, Japanese are pioneers to bring in the first set of standards. Then, of course, China came in. Later, of course, the European countries picked up. So what need to be standardized? So these are some of the components which need to be standardized. Of course, the input power, the power grid, the input from the supply, what type of supply I'm going to use, those things need to be standardized. And of course, the output also. Okay, what is the AC voltage, or what is the DC voltage, what is the voltage range, what is the power range? So these values need to be standardized. What type of connectors or what type of plugins or sockets I'm going to use it for different kinds of vehicle. Of course, that need to be standardized. As I have already told you, the communication protocol, the vehicle to charger to grid. So all these communication protocols need to be standardized. Protection and safety, of course, it is going to play a very vital role as far as charging is concerned. The mechanical, electrical, and environmental concerns need to be taken into care. So few other parameters. Of course, this is a very vital thing as far as electrical systems are concerned, because I have limitations in the power factor. I can't go for lesser power factor. I have to maintain a power factor. But what is the limit? Okay, and second one is the efficiency. Okay, what is the minimum efficiency the vehicle, the charger has to maintain? Because they're all power electronic device. They are going to switch in, and they're going to pump in a lot of harmonics into my system. They are going to sometimes, if I don't use them properly, they can reduce the efficiency also. But I need a limitation. So the charger should operate with a minimum efficiency of this much. If not, it is going to waste power. Okay, I should not allow that. So these things need to be charged, need to be standardized. Of course, the EMI, the packing, all those things need to be standardized. So these are some of the top components which needs standardization. So as far as standards are concerned, EV standards are concerned, so these are some of the agencies which have already came out with different standards. As I have told you, the pioneers were Japan as far as charging is concerned. They brought out their own set of standards called as CHAdeMO standards. CHAdeMO standards. Okay, CHAdeMO stands for have a cup of tea, cha demo, have a cup of tea. Okay, so so that is the proper translation for this term. So they use this particular type of standard. And as far as Chinese standards are concerned, so they use a type of standard called GB/T. And then, of course, when Europeans came out, so when they picked out the European Union, so their standards commission, IEC, say they brought out three sets of standards. One is ICE 61851, System A, System B, and System C. And A and B, they just adapted the standards which China and Japan were using. Okay, this is just CHAdeMO standard, and this is GT/B, which is being used by China. Okay, and this can be CHAdeMO can be used for up to 500 volt DC, whereas GB/T can be used up to 1500 volt DC. Okay, and this was proposed by the Europeans. Okay, so this CCS standard. CCS, of course, even it is very prevalent today. So two standards they have released. One is CCS1 and CCS2. So this can be used for up to 1000 volt DC. Okay, the battery voltage is up to 1000 volt. I can go for it. As far as USA is concerned, so they brought out the Society of Automotive Engineers, SAE. They brought out their own set of standards, and some of them were adapted from the European Union. Okay, CCS was adapted from the Europeans. Okay, now they only specified this level 1, level 2, level 3 charging. You can see it at different places whenever you write a proposal or whenever some values of this design comes in of the charger. These values comes out, level 1 charger, level 2 charger. This all comes from the SAE standards. And as far as India is concerned, so the Bureau of Indian Standards, they released a set of standards called IS 1701017. So this incorporates some of the standards from Japan. Some of them were derived from CCS, and even some vehicles, even they adopt the GB/T standards also, even in India. Okay, but before this happened, okay, the Department of Heavy Industries, when the charger design and all started, so they released two standards. Once again, this is very popular nowadays. One is Bharat Charger AC001, and the other one is Bharat Charger DC001. So as far as the values are concerned, so I'll just quickly rush through it. So now see, once again, this is released by DHI. Okay, so AC charger. So the standard is 230 volt, 15 ampere, and the maximum rating is 3.3. Okay, these are all AC chargers. Okay, and these three are by SAE. So SAE released level 1 standard, wherein the maximum power rating is up to 1.5 kilowatt. If you go for level 2 charger, the level 2 standards, if you want to use, I can use it up to 19.2 kilowatt. And level 3 charger, once again, I can tap up to 200 ampere, and I can go up to 350 kilowatt charge. Okay, it can be either DC or AC. Okay, the input can be, the input can be either DC or AC. It is you can adapt there. So level 3 is actually AC and DC, right? And when I say DC charger, this is the one which is released by Department of Heavy Industries, because in India, so we are the one who are using voltages of lesser values, so 72 volts. So the older vehicles, like for example that the E-Verito. So and similarly the Tigor e-vehicle. So these are the vehicles which used 72 volts battery. Okay, so they you adopt these standard, which was released by, which is this DC001 standard, and it can have an output of up to 15 kilowatt. Okay, higher rating, right? So 30 to 300 kilowatt you can. So nowadays we use CHAdeMO sometimes some vehicles are adapting, some OEMs are using CCS1, CCS2, sometimes even China standards are also being adapted even in our country. So now these are the standards which are being used. And regarding the connectors, okay, now these are some of the standard connectors which are available now. So this, once again, as per the standard. See here, if for example, if you say the CCS standard, so they have the provision of doing AC charging as well as DC charging. So these two pins are for DC charging, fast charging. Okay, and these three pins are for AC charging, wherein I'll be going for slow charging. Okay, so the same connector, there is scope for both AC charging and DC charging. Now this is the GT-BT charger, wherein I can do DC charging, and there are scope for communications also. Okay, communication lines also can run along with the wire. Okay, now this is purely a DC charger. It's a charger which is being used in Japan. We call it as CHAdeMO charger. Now, I hope you got a wholesome idea about the different types of chargers, how the charger architecture is going to be, and of course how the standards are being made, and the different types of connectors. Now, having done this, I just want to introduce about another type of charging called wireless charging of electric vehicle, which is being researched, and it is being a niche topic today, right? This is a drawback when I say I want to charge my vehicle using a wire, right? So I come tired from my office. I need to take my car to the proper place. I have to take the wire. I have to put in the wire inside. Then I have to switch on it. I have to check whether the charging is happening properly. Then I have to go into my home. Okay, so I need some more sophistication. So I don't want this to happen, right? So even sometimes in your mobile itself, sometimes we'll connect the mobile in the socket. Sometimes we'll forget to switch on the supply. So the same difficulties, the same thing can happen in my plug-in charging also, the wire charging also. So I don't want this to happen. I want to provide bring in some more sophistication into my charging technique. Like I just park my car in my garage or in my parking slot. I don't want to do anything. Immediately my vehicle has to charge. Okay, now this is possible using wireless charging technique, right? So in case of wireless charging technique, so you see there will be a small charge pad. We call it as a charge pad, which will be available on the ground, which will be installed on the ground. I just need to park my vehicle above this charge pad. Okay, immediately the vehicle will sense, I mean the charge pad will sense that the vehicle has been parked above the vehicle, and it immediately communicates to the controller. The controller immediately sends or communicates with the battery, which is available, the BMS which is available inside my vehicle, and it will check what is the state of charge of the battery, and if there is a requirement to charge the battery, immediately my charger sends the required power to the vehicle or to the battery through this charge pads. Now this is one thing which is being researched, and which is coming out well in the recent days. Now, this is not a new technique. The wireless charging is not a new technique. So it is a very, very old technique from when Michael Faraday introduced the law of induction. So wherein I can transfer power between two circuits itself. It has been introduced. Then, of course, Tesla, he tried to transmit power from one point to another. I hope you have learned in history, but it failed. But later, slowly, the wireless charging, or the charging of this wireless technique, or transferring power in wireless medium picked up, right? And in 2007, a group of researchers from MIT, they demonstrated this wireless charging, wherein they worked on a charger of 60-watt power. Okay, very low power, 60-watt power, and they were able to transfer power with a gap of 2 meters. The gap is very huge, 2-meter gap. Okay, but the drawback of that system is the efficiency of the system is very lesser. Okay, so later, okay, so people started working on it, and nowadays, of course, there are plenty of players who are working on this wireless EV charging. So mainly Qualcomm is one company which are pioneers in this. Delphi is one company. KAIST has done plenty of work in this area, wireless EV charging. And MIT, along with one of their startup called Vitricity, they have also developed wireless chargers for electric vehicle. Now, this is something similar to your mobile charger, mobile wireless charger. Even nowadays, it is available, right? You just keep your mobile on the wireless charge pad, automatically the vehicle will get charged. Now, coming to the architecture of this wireless charging. So now this figure gives you the complete architecture of this charging. But before that, there are plenty of methods of doing this wireless charging. Okay, so the one which we are talking, it comes under the concept called near field wireless power transfer. Okay, so I'm going to have the coils near. Okay, near field wireless power transfer, or I say it is non-radiative wireless power transfer. And once again, there are two types in this non-radiative power transfer. One is called as capacitive coupling based, and the other one is inductive coupling based. Inductive coupling based gained popularity, and in inductive power transfer, there is one more specific category called resonance inductive coupling power transfer. So they are the popular one today. So they are capable of giving almost 80 to 90% efficiency of wireless power transfer. Right. So now this is one such thing. Okay, it comes under resonance inductive coupling based wireless power transfer. So what I'm going to do here is, so I'll take the 50 hertz AC supply. First, I'll convert it into DC. So now here I'll be having DC supply. Then I'm going to convert this DC into very high frequency AC, because I'm going to transmit power at very high frequency. Okay, and as per standards, SAE standards, it is going to be almost 85 to 90 kilohertz. Okay, now this high frequency inverter, actually it's an inverter, so that is going to convert my AC supply into DC. Okay, and then of course I'll be having a primary compensation circuit which will be taking care of maintaining the resonance. As I have told you, they come under resonance inductive coupling based. Right, so they take care of maintaining the resonance in the circuit. And then of course, once again, this has been connected to a charge pad, okay, or a transmitted pad which is installed on the ground. Okay, the transmitter pad has been installed on the ground. Okay, and the secondary pad or the pickup coil is available on the vehicle. Okay, this has been permanently fixed on the vehicle. Okay, so there is flux linkage. Power has been transferred from one coil to another. So this will be received by the secondary coil, and then of course on the secondary side also I need to maintain resonance, and the power which has been taken here, once again, it is going to be AC, right? It is going to be high frequency AC here. Here also it is going to be high frequency AC. Now this high frequency AC, once again, this need to be converted into DC, and based on the requirement of my battery. Okay, based on the requirement of my battery, I have to supply this power to the battery to get it charged, right? So of course, there are two controllers required here. One is on the primary side, okay, wherein to maintain the resonance of the circuit. Okay, to maintain the resonance of the circuit, I'll be adjusting the frequencies of the switching. Okay, switching this the inverter, the high frequency inverter. And here, of course, I should have a control on the power which I'm going to send into the battery. Here, once again, my requirement is going to be constant voltage, constant current. Okay, so of course, this should be capable of providing me variable voltage, variable current supply. Okay, when initially I should provide variable voltage, constant current, and after a point of time, I have to supply constant voltage and varying current to my battery. So this has to be taken care by this controller, and of course there is a need of communication between these two controllers, the primary controller and the secondary controller. They will take care of the required thing. Okay, but one important thing which we have to worry about this wireless charging is the misalignment, because as you know, when two coils are aligned properly. Okay, so I say just I have one coil just above the other, so I can say that the flux linkage is maximum. Okay, but if the driver parks the vehicle a little bit away, okay, or little bit front or little bit back, or he moved the car a bit on the left or on the right, the alignment of the vehicle, the alignment of the coils will not be uniform. Right, even a small centimeter change is going to affect the flux linkage, the mutual coupling between the coils. Right, so irrespective of this displacement or this misalignment, okay, and similarly, if you think about the gap between the primary coil and the secondary coil, okay, these two gaps, the gap between the primary coil and the secondary coil, so you can see that it once again depends upon plenty of components. Like, see, if the load on the vehicle is more, say for example, I put more weight on the vehicle, there is a possibility the charge pad can come down. Okay, or I suppose you say the tire pressure is a little lower, the position of my secondary coil can come down. So there is a possibility of both the misalignment, that is horizontal misalignment is also possible, vertical misalignment is also possible. But irrespective of both horizontal misalignment and vertical misalignment, I have to transfer power I have to maintain resonance in my circuit, and of course, I have to transfer power at very high efficiency. So efficiency, of course, it is going to be a real challenge because I have plenty of power electronics here. Here I have switching, here I have rectifier, here once again I have my rectifier. They're all going to consume power. So when you do switching, I'll be losing power. And of course, I have some energy storage elements here on the primary compensation and secondary compensation circuits. They can drop the value of my efficiency. But still, if I do the design properly, okay, irrespective of the loss, it is possible to maintain efficiency of about 80 to 90%, which is really considered to be very good or high as far as wireless power transfer is concerned. And once again, few more issues as far as wireless charging is concerned is regarding the, as I have told you, the power transfer efficiency is a major concern. It need to be addressed properly. And EMI, electromagnetic interference, of course, it need to be discussed. It need to be researched. It should be within the allowable limit. And one important thing as far as this wireless charging issues are concerned is the interference of foreign objects, right? So if some conducting material comes in between the primary and the secondary coil, or the transmitter pad and the receiver pad, when the vehicle is when they are in switched on condition, there is a possibility of electricity or heat being induced on the foreign object if it is a conducting object, and it can be hazardous. So proper protection need to be taken to keep away the foreign objects into the charging system, the wireless charging system. So this figure shows a typical example of the complete topology of your wireless charger. So starting from here, I have the AC supply given. Then, as I have told you, I'm going to convert this AC into DC. Then I'm going to connect it to a high frequency. I'm going to connect it to a high frequency inverter. Okay, it's a Hutch bridge inverter. It is going to switch at a very high frequency, and then I have the compensating circuit which will take care of the resonance, and then of course I'm going to connect it to the coil over here. Right, the coil is the primary coil is available here, and similarly the secondary coil or the pickup coil is available here on the secondary side. Once again, I have the compensators available here to maintain the resonance. Then once again, I'll be converting this into DC, and that DC power can be supplied to the load. Of course, the load here is going to be a battery. Okay, here the control aspect is not shown here. Of course, these are going to be switched on properly as per the signals which will be received by the controller. And similarly, this rectifier also need to be a controlled rectifier. Only then I can supply proper power to the battery. As far as charging standards are concerned, only SAE has provided standards for this wireless charging technique. So this is one of the most common standard which you need to look in if you are going to use wireless charging. So they only specify that if you are going for wireless charging for electric vehicle, you have to do it at 85 to 90 kilohertz, in between 85 kilohertz to 90 kilohertz. So this is being specified in this SAE J2954 standard. So this is for the power electronics part, both the ground assembly and the vehicle assembly. Okay, so both the primary part and the secondary part. So it has been specified by SAE J2954 standard. And similarly, the communication standards are being specified by SAE J2847/6. So this is the major one as far as communication is concerned. So what type of, how it is going to communicate between primary and secondary, how the communication is going to happen. So that need to be taken care. So of course, the communication is very important, very vital. Okay, so whether I'm going to control the primary part, secondary part, sometimes there are possibilities for dual side control also. So both the sides I can have control. So researchers are coming out wherein I'll have a control on both the components. They'll integrate together and they will work. So of course, these are some recent works which are coming out as far as this charging is concerned. So finally, I want to touch upon this particular topic called dynamic EV charging. So wherein we called it as charging on the go. Okay, now this is one more area wherein a lot of researchers are being happening. So you take any power electronics or industrial electronics journal, so you can see at least 1 or 2 papers coming in this area every issue, right? So what we are going to try here is, once again, here also we are bringing in the concept of this wireless charging. Okay, but so what I'm going to do is I'm going to keep on I'm going to embedding charge pads on the road, right? So charge pads will be installed on the vehicle. Okay, and the secondary pad or the pickup pad will be the charge pads or the primary pads will be available on the road, as it has mentioned here, and the secondary pad is going to be available on the vehicle. So when the vehicle moves, okay, so when it comes into the charging lane, so immediately the control circuits detects the primary and the secondary, the vehicle and the transmitter part detects, and it starts charging. Okay, once the charging is full, I can come out of the charging lane, right? So when I need, I can get into the charging lane and I can do the charging when I am traveling in the car itself. Advantage, so one significant advantage is, so when I go for dynamic charging or on-the-go charging, okay, the size of the battery can be reduced considerably because I don't want to worry about the range, right? So for example, instead of 300-kilometer range, I say I have 200-kilometer range, but still I have charge pads wherein whenever I go through a particular route, I can charge the vehicle. Now it is fine. So wherein I can reduce the battery capacity, right? So when I reduce the battery capacity, for example, from 30 kilowatt hour to I say I bring into 15 kilowatt hour, so it is going to be a huge reduction as far as the weight of the vehicle is concerned, right? So when the weight of the vehicle reduces, of course, it brings in energy efficiency into my vehicle. So energy efficiency in the sense, how much watt hour of energy is spent for 1 kilometer of travel, right? So that depends upon the energy consumption. The energy consumption depends upon the power, and the power consumed by the vehicle mainly depends upon one important parameter, which is the gross vehicle weight. Okay, so if you reduce the gross vehicle weight, so naturally the energy efficiency, it's similar to your mileage. So for your internal combustion engines, we say 15 liters per kilometer. Per liter, how much kilometer I can travel. Similar to your mileage, in case of electric vehicle, we say how much watt hour of energy per kilometer of travel. So if I bring down the watt hour per kilometer of travel. So as of now, it is for if it is a four-wheeler, it will be around almost 40 to 50 kilowatt hour per kilometer. If I try to bring down, so it is going to increase the efficiency. So still the range is going to be higher. Okay, so same battery can provide me better range, right? So this happen when I reduce the size of the when I reduce the weight of the battery. Okay, that is possible in this dynamic charging, and naturally when I do this, when I reduce the size of the battery, the cost is also going to come down. So this is one such charge pad, like one kind of the dynamic charging path which has been installed by Qualcomm. So they call it as Qualcomm Halo dynamic electric vehicle charging system. Okay, so this is a test pad, a test track wherein they have installed it for about 100 meters, and the power transfer happens at 85 kilohertz, and each charge pad is capable of delivering a 20 kilowatt power, right? So this test also has been made successfully.
Sir, Vipin sir,
Yeah.
sir, sorry for interrupting. Uh, we are having in our midst a peer review member, uh, Sir Sanjay sir. I welcome you, sir. Can you able to hear me, sir?
Yeah. It's okay. You did not disturb it. You
Okay.
continue. You continue. No
Okay,
problem.
sir.
No
Thank
problem.
you, sir.
Thank you. Thank you.
Welcome, sir.
Carry on.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Vipin sir, you can continue now, sir.
Yeah, so I'm almost at the end of my session because my time is almost over. So of course, this is one research which has been prominent now, and plenty of people are working in this area, and this has been done successfully, and it is under testing phase now. We hope in the days to come, you can see such kind of charge pads installed in the roads, wherein on the go itself, I can keep on charging my vehicle. So now this is an architecture of the dynamic EV charging system, similar to whatever I have explained you now in case of static charging, but the charge pads are arranged in a series of fashion. Whenever the vehicle comes in near to that particular charge pad, so the power is being picked in, and it is going to charge the battery. So let me stop with this. There are some research areas as far as electric vehicle charger is concerned, wherein plenty of researchers are concerned, wherein plenty of works are being done, wherein you can go for applying funding, or you can write a funding proposal. I have listed you here. So of course, plenty of works are happening in the area of fast charging techniques, how to bring in, reduce the time of charging, and then optimal planning and design of electric vehicle charging stations. This is one niche area. And designing high efficiency converters, because if power electronics are the one which are going to reduce the efficiency, of course they are the boon. At the same time, they are going to pull down my efficiency along with my energy storage devices, energy storage elements. So how to design high efficient power converters? It can be a high efficient inverter, or it can be a rectifier, control rectifier, whatever it may be. So plenty of works are happening in different ways of load fast forecasting as far as energy electric vehicle charging is concerned, because this is a very important topic. Because just like that, if I pump in a huge amount of power from the grid, I say I put in 10 hundreds of vehicles, and suddenly if I pull a huge amount of power from the grid, and after it fully charges, immediately switch on the supply. So the amount of power which is being captured from the grid suddenly increases to a huge value, and suddenly you will say you'll simply cut off the supply. So there are possibilities of affecting the stability of my power system, or bringing in oscillations into my system, which need to be taken care. So forecasting, of course, it can help you out. So some studies are happening in this area. Supercapacitors integrated with battery chargers, it is a promising area. And thermal management, even in the previous session, you might have heard how to manage the thermal aspects in battery as well as in chargers. So they are also vital. Integrating photovoltaic renewable systems along with charging stations. I don't want to take power from the grid. I'm going to operate standalone as a microgrid, or something like that, wherein I don't depend on power. I just use the renewable power, and I'm going to use my charging station. They are vital topics as of now. Then once again, as I have told you, charge coils for wireless power transfer, control of wireless power transfer, and dynamic electric vehicle charging techniques. So these are some of the niche areas wherein you can start as faculties or researchers, they can start exploring, writing a proposal, and exploring this areas. So it's really interesting to work. So it is all happening. So you can see things happening out parallelly when you work. So with this, I'll like to conclude. Of course, so of course, you're all needed now. So we are all required to make the world green. So that is the objective of this complete concept of electric vehicle, to bring in the concept of sustainability into my system, to reduce the emission. So when I keep on using more number of electric vehicle in a country like India, so I'm going to help the economy of your country. So it is all in our hands now, how we engineers we are going to contribute for this great task. So thank you once again. Thank you for your patient listening.
So thank you very much, sir. Pepin, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Now the session is open for questionnaire. Participants can raise up their queries, or they can post up their questions in the chat box. Pepin, sir, the participant has posted a few questions I would like to take up to your presence.
Yeah, please.
The first question is shared by Arpuda Mary Nancy, and the question is, can you share your view on research possibilities in wireless vehicle-to-vehicle technology?
Yeah, as I have told you, so as far as wireless charging is concerned, you mean to say wireless charging or wireless communication?
Wireless, sir. Wireless charging.
Wireless charging. So as far as wireless charging is concerned, as I am, I hope you can see my slide here. See, all these components are research area. For example, if I can design a high frequency inverter, okay, so because the output is now almost 85 kilohertz, Okay, and normally this can operate with an efficiency about, for example, 90 to 92%. See, I say I bring in a new topology into my system. I bring in a new concept into this this inverter thing, and I say I'm going to increase the efficiency. That is going to be a research area. So as far as rectifier is concerned, so this is associated with power factor correction also, because I'm going to take power from the grid. So if I can work something on this rectifier along with the power factor correction, and which is capable of providing good efficiency, I can do it. So plenty of works are happening on the compensation circuit. Okay, there are plenty of compensation circuits like series, parallel series, and parallel series. The combinations of them, how we connect it, how we connect the energy storage devices, of course, they are going to be vital. So this is also a research area. Then coil pad. So plenty of works are being reported nowadays. So what type of coil, whether it is a circular coil or a square type of coil. So where I'm going to place the ferrite spokes. Okay. How I'm going to improve the flux linkage, okay, which is going to give me the best option, what type of wire I'm going to use, what should be the dimensions. So of course, wire researches are happening here. And of course, on the control aspect also. Okay, so one important area where you can explore is on the control aspect. Okay, so as I have told you, both on primary side, secondary side, dual side control, wherein I can integrate both my primary and secondary control and perform my task. So these are some areas wherein you can really work in or pitch in.
Thank you, sir. Now the second question is posted by Uttarkash Verma.
Yeah.
And he is asking the questions. I will state the statement, what he has given. Faster charging rates reduce the battery life, but faster charging is more practical for the driver. So, how the trade-off between these two aspects is made?
Yeah, so that's really a very interesting question. So as you have mentioned in the question, faster charging is going to pull down the life of the battery. There is no doubt about it, because when I do fast charging, I'm going to pump in power at a very higher rate. Okay, the heat dissipation is going to be higher in the battery. So I hope in the previous session also it has been discussed. Ideal temperature for my battery is 25 degree. Okay, anything lesser or more than that, that is going to hinder the life of the battery. Okay, but the trade-off is like, see, every time if I go for fast charging, naturally I'm going to pull down the life. For example, I say I have a lithium-ion battery which is capable of giving me 1,000 charge cycles. Okay, it means 1,000 charging and discharging cycles. Okay, I say occasionally I'm doing fast charging whenever I require, whenever I travel to a faster distance, far away distance, or a sudden requirement, I'll do fast charging. Nothing is going to happen. See, for example, from 1,000 cycles, it may come to 950 cycles or 900 cycles. It is not going to be a great deal. Okay, but if we keep on performing fast charging, okay, if I keep on every time you'll be doing fast charging, so naturally it'll come from 1,000 cycles to 500 cycles, right? And so what happens is, if the OEM, if the vehicle manufacturer says you will be given 1.6, I mean 10, I mean 1 lakh kilometer of warranty. Okay, so within 60-70 kilometer, 60,000, 70,000 kilometer usage of your vehicle itself, you will be in a need of replacing the battery, because the battery might have reached the end of life. Okay, so it won't give you the proper range. So the end of life of the battery might have been reached. So it is the trade-off between how much time you do fast charging and how much cycles you are reducing because of performing this fast charging. So if I want to maintain the life of the battery, so you do normal charging. Okay, only for emergency case you perform fast charging. Okay, so no, I am particular about fast charging. I don't bother about money, right? So after after for example 60,000 or 70,000 kilometers, I can replace the battery. So I don't mind about it. So go for fast charging. So of course, I think that is going to be the trade-off between fast charging and the life of the battery.
Thank you, sir. Now another question is posted. It is of the same, revolving around the same area.
Yeah.
One is posted by Uttarkash Verma and Arpada Marinesi. Question is dynamic charging safe? And also the other question says that, will it be safe during the climatic change? And is there any possibility of leakage of charge to the atmosphere?
Yeah, of course, there are possibilities of failure. Okay, even in wired charging also there are possibilities of failure. Okay, but it is all how we are going to manage it. Okay, how we are going to design the system, how we are going to meet out all the standards which are being specified by the standard agencies or the board, and it all depends upon our design. Okay, so only if it meets out all these requirements, it is going to be licensed, or it is going to be going to come out of the market. But of course, it is possible. Okay, dynamic charging is possible. Already, as I have mentioned, Qualcomm has done a pathway successfully for about 100 meters. There are a few more companies who have already done it. So plenty of companies, even Nissan is also working on this. Wireless charging and dynamic charging. BMW is working some research on this area. So of course there are scopes, but of course it all matters. The time is the key. How much time it will take for this research to mature and come out as a product, that we have to wait.
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir. Next question is the dynamic charging is safe due to the climatic condition?
No, that's what. So when you say, for example, you fix a charger on the road, right? And I say, if suppose it is going to be raining, okay. Now, of course, the charger should be leak proof. Am I right? So it should be leak proof. It should not allow any possibility of any kind of leakage. It can be any kind of damage or any kind of leakage. It should not be possible in my charger, right? Or it should not be possible in my dynamic charging system. So if I design it properly, it is possible. So I can avoid it.
So next question is, sir, how much efficient is dynamic charging compared to charging from stations?
Static charging, of course, public charging or wired charging, I can go up to 95, 97% efficiency. Of course, I say 95 typical value, right? Static wireless charging, 80 to 90%. So that is the best thing, right? Dynamic charging, if you achieve, as of now, as per the research, whatever papers I have seen, if I achieve 70 to 75, it is going to be a very good value. But day by day, the value is increasing. Okay, so day by day, it is keeping on increasing. Slowly, the values are keeping on increasing. But when I go for dynamic charging, so I don't mind losing a particular amount of efficiency. That is what you have to, you must have in your mind. Okay, so if I go for dynamic charging, okay, even if I lose a particular amount of efficiency, I don't mind. Okay, because as I have told you, I am reducing the cost of the battery. I'm reducing the size of the battery. I'm increasing the efficiency of the vehicle itself. The vehicle efficiency is being increased. That you have to consider, right? So I'm reducing the size of the vehicle, or the gross vehicle weight of the vehicle. It means that the efficiency of the vehicle itself, okay, as I have told you, the watt hour per kilometer itself is increasing. Okay, that efficiency is increasing. So there can be a trade-off between this value, this efficiency, and the increase in the efficiency of the overall performance of the vehicle.
Thank you, sir. One more last question, sir.
Yeah.
Many countries have plans to deploy electrical vehicle charging stations, and India, of course, we are marching towards it. How feasible it is in our country, sir, when this transition is going to be executed?
So the key is the cost, right? So the key issue is going to be the cost of the vehicle. First is the cost of the vehicle. Okay, so other than charging station, so as far as electric vehicles in India are concerned, so the capacity of Indian buyers, okay, the capacity of Indian buyers, or for example, if you see, it is almost 7 lakhs, or say, for example, less than 10 lakhs, okay, as far as four-wheeler is concerned, right? If there are some manufacturers who bring in vehicles with lesser power rating, I'm sorry, lesser cost, right? So for example, you say nowadays, a Nexon EV, the Nexon EV cost about 14.5 lakhs. Okay, the same Nexon vehicle, okay, the internal combustion, the petrol vehicle is just 7.5 lakhs. See, there is a huge difference on the vehicle cost itself. Almost, you see, it is almost double. Okay, the same vehicle, if it is a petrol vehicle, it is 7.5 lakhs. The same vehicle, if it is an EV, it is going to be 14 lakhs. Okay, that is a market condition in our country. Okay, but if this comes down, the cost of my electric vehicle comes down, and that happens when there is advancement in the battery technology. So it all once again depends upon the research which is going to happen in the battery technology, mainly on the lithium-ion battery. Okay, and the battery price is keeping on coming down. Okay, day by day, the cost of your battery, okay, the energy density of the battery, the cost of the battery, the lithium-ion battery is keeping on coming down. So we hope, because of the research which is happening in this area, of course, the cost will come down in the days to come. Okay, when this happens, when more number of electric vehicles are adopted, so naturally the need of public charging comes into picture. And of course, plenty of initiatives are taken by the government of India. Even there are plenty of private players who are working. Of course, Tata Power is one such thing. They have installed plenty of chargers in Coimbatore, Chennai, even in Hosur. Some chargers have been installed. Bangalore, plenty of chargers are available. So of course, it is going to come out. So once again, it depends upon how many electric vehicles are come out. Okay, and that once again depends upon the capital cost of the vehicle.
Thank you, sir. Sir, one more question the participant has posted in the chat box.
Yeah.
So we will take up this question, and it will be the last question for the session.
All right.
The question is posted by Uttarkash Verma, and the question is, sir, major portion of electric power generation in India is from utilizing fossil fuels. So if EVs would increase significantly, so will be the power demand, leading to higher usage of fossil fuels. So how much sustainable choice are EVs really are?
Yeah. So of course that is of course it's a beautiful question. Okay, but one thing you should have in your mind. Okay, always you should have in your mind. Okay, compared to petrol vehicle. Okay, compared to petrol vehicle, electric vehicle by themselves are 4% energy efficient. Okay, for example, if I say in watt-hour, okay, I'll convert your mechanical joule into watt-hour. Okay, and I say for example, for 1 kilometer of travel, okay, if a mechanical vehicle needs for example 100 watt-hour of energy, okay, 100 watt-hour of energy, the same 1 kilometer of travel, if I'm using an electric vehicle, I just need 25 watt-hour of energy. The reason is internal combustion engine, their maximum efficiency is only 25% maximum. Okay, it can be a petrol vehicle or diesel vehicle. The maximum efficiency is that much. The remaining power is being the remaining energy is being wasted in the form of heat. Whereas the prime mover as far as electric vehicle is concerned is going to be a motor. Okay, motors can operate at very high efficiency, 90% efficiency, 95% efficiency, 97. Even nowadays, the interior permanent magnet synchronous motors, which are being used in most of the electric vehicle nowadays, they are capable of providing almost 95% efficiency. Now, the motor itself, the vehicle itself, is providing you 4 times energy saving. You have to keep it in your mind. Okay, and then of course you can compare it with the requirement of the fossil fuels. Of course, as you are saying, there will be need for increased usage of fossil fuel. But as far as India is concerned, there is a huge potential of tapping solar power. Right, so we have a huge amount of solar energy resource. So if we can manage these two things, okay, so we can do wonders. So India can do wonders as far as sustainability and green energy concepts are concerned.
Thank you very much, sir. So we have come to the end of the session. So we will wind up this session with a formal vote of thanks. So in this occasion, On behalf of the Department of Mechanical Engineering and Sri Ishwar College of Engineering, we extend our gratitude and thanks to Dr. Febin Daya, Professor from VIT, for presenting this one of the wonderful session. And we thank you, sir, for answering all the queries raised by the participants. It was indeed one of the wonderful session with a lot of key takeaways for the research scholars and the participants. Hoping to join again in some other occasions. With these words, I thank you once again, sir, Dr. Febin Daya, for your participation with us, for accepting the invitation, what we have raised. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you all. Thank you for this wonderful session. Thank you for beautifully organizing this. So thank you, everyone.